in my last video where I gave you guys my bow guide, there was one question that kept popping up in the comment section. That question was, should I use light armor? Of course, that question was, where is my spear guide? For me, I'm all about giving the people what they want. So,
hello to my little friend.
I hope you guys enjoy the video and you find it helpful. If you do, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit me up in the comment section if you have any questions. As you can see, I go to maximum effort to answer all the comments. And I just want to say, guys, in my last bow guide video, you know, huge amounts of support. We grew from close to 200 subscribers to over 300 just with that video. So I really do appreciate that, guys. It's awesome. Obviously, I want to be hitting that magic number of 1,000 subs. So if you do enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe and also hit that notification button, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, let's get into the spear build. My spear build is for as much lockdown as possible. I'm not going for the highest damage build. That's what I use my bow for. So this way I get a really good flow between my bow and my spear. So my spear is considered my secondary weapon. I'm going to show you how I build this so that I am constantly getting my skills up and running to be able to really help support my bow, be able to lock people down, which then helps create that distance. And also, I know for a fact if I'm coming up towards someone and they pull out a spear, it's a bit like causing that second of hesitation when you pull out your spear is actually a super strong psychological factor in PvP.
That's how winning is done.
Just like in my bow build, I'm going to be going through with you guys how I would put each skill in as I unlock it with the spear. So this is for those people that are leveling up using the spear, but also for people that are picking up spear for the first time. As you can see, we got Zoner and Impaler. We're actually going to come over to the Impaler side first. Just like in my bow build, because we are PvP focused, we want to be unlocking those skills as quickly as possible. So right off the bat, you've got two good choices to passives here. We're going to be taking precise jabs, and then we're going to be coming down here to finishing blows. That is then going to be able to unlock us into Vault Kick. This is the #1 skill that you guys want. I don't care what anyone else says, you need to have Vault Kick in your skills, because this is the only skill for spear that is going to be able done through Berserk for hatchet users and also grit attacks. So great axe users that are strength stack, we're getting grit on light and heavy attacks. You can stun them through that, and also any other animation as well. So you'll see in some of my clips, you can actually stun things like hammer skills mid animation. So Vault Kick is definitely the one you want to be taking. It's also one of the two gap closers for spear, the other being skewer, but Vault Kick is the one that I prefer. We're going to be heading over to here in the Zoner tree, and we're going to be taking Javelin. Now I absolutely love this skill. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and it does require a level of aim and also prediction. So if you're not super confident in those areas, well, you can always pick this up and then, you know, learn with it. But most of the time you're going to be comboing this off your other skills. So it's not a be all end all if you don't have aim, but it does help a lot in certain situations where you find you're having your spear out, you're caught in an ice gauntlet AoE, you know, your only other option is to swap to bow and then be able to evade shot out. evade shot might be on cooldown, who knows. So sometimes you do have to hit these shots. Another great thing about Javelin is it actually launches them back a fair few meters. So when you get later into PvP, things like versing life staff users that are sitting inside their beacon, or as I like to call it, bitch bubble, they're gonna be sitting. This is a great skill to actually be able to get them outside of that.
Is gonna stand in my way.
It throws them back and it's very useful when timed well. I believe that it's a must for it to work with my build. We're actually going to be taking forceful impacts, so that's the one where if you hit them with Javelin, they're going to be thrown to the ground and also launched back. Then we're going to be coming over to Sweep. So Sweep is extremely good skill. It does not stun through Berserk though. It does not stun through Grit attacks. So you have to be a bit more cautious when you use this skill. And so now that we've got all our skills, we're actually going to go back and we're going to completely deck out Vault Kick. And that is because, as you can see, in power, such a good skill, especially early level as well. And then now we've also got this one, which is continuous motion. That 30% reduction on successful hits is amazing, but it also shows you a little bit in terms of how you should be using your skills. So this is going to reduce the cooldowns of your other skills. So if you can position yourself to be able to potentially open with Sweep, followed by a Javelin throw, and then once they're thrown back, if you can get close to them, do some damage, more than likely they are going to dodge, and then you can use your Vault Kick then to gap close and be able to get the stun. And potentially you could then go for another combo set. So now that we've got that, we're actually going to come back up to the top here and we're going to get refreshing jabs. So that's going to reduce your cooldowns by another 10% on the second light attack. You'll see me using a lot of light attacks in my videos because really the only stun that you can get a heavy attack off is Vault Kick, and you need to be extremely quick after you manage to land it. So once we've got that, we're then going to come down to aggressive maneuvers. So again, guys, if you're dodging much like the bow, dodging before you're attacking or using a skill, you're going to be picking up another 20% cooldown reduction. So you're going to start to be able to see the roll on effect that all these cooldown reductions have. As you guys can see here in this clip, if I dodge before I use Vault Kick, the amount of skill cooldown reduction I get is unbelievable. So people don't expect to be able to get stunned and get locked down that quickly, and that's why I've come up with this build. So now we're coming back over to the zoner tree. Now we're going to go ahead and get Sweep decked out. Gaining Grit during this ability, it means there's only a particular set of skills that can stun you out of this. So this is a must as well. If you're running around trying to use skills without Grit, you're going to find it very hard when you start versing multiple people to be able to get skills off, especially if you're relying on them to get you those stuns. So now I'm actually going to talk about Coupe de Grace. Guys, for me, I do not run this skill. If you saw my bow guide, you know that I hate being locked into animations, and the amount of times that I have seen people go for a sweep, completely miss it, but they're still just spamming left click, and then they go into this, you know, 1.5 second long animation where they are literally stabbing dirt. You're basically standing there like a dickhead, getting absolutely wailed on by 2 to 3 people, all because you accidentally misclicked. The room for error with this skill is just too big. So therefore, for me, easy choice, I don't take it, and also it's going to free up an extra slot later on. Not saying that this skill can't hit multiple people if you get a multiple person sweep. It is an absolute no for me. In terms of how I PvP, I do a lot of open world stuff, so it's not always 1v1 duels and things like this. If that was the case, I would understand why you would take this skill, but I'm really just doing this to be able to lock down people for as long as possible, not necessarily do the most amount of damage on them. For the rest of the Javelin skills, I don't take them either. For refreshing precision, obviously hitting those headshots, reducing it by 50%. The thing about that is this is going to force you to have to hit that headshot instead of just aiming for center mass. So obviously in those heat of the moment situations, if you're relying on this skill to stun and you go for the headshot instead of just going for center mass and you end up missing for some unbeknown reason, the risk is not worth the reward in my mind. And also with all of these cooldown passives, your skill's going to be coming up super quick anyway. So this is just a bit of a joke. You don't really use Javelin for its damage. I have seen some extremely long Javelin throws. Shout out to my boy CIROKS. Most of the time when you're using Javelin, you're going to be using it within 2 to 3 meters anyway. So it doesn't really make sense in having this just to increase the damage of one skill by 7.5%. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to go for Merciless Strength because obviously people with this build are going to be spending a lot of time on their ass, and so we're going to be able to dish out as much damage as possible. Then we're also going to go over to Defensive Stance. Now this is great. You have the longest heavy attack poke. It's actually almost as long as the light attack bullshit lunge on Great Axe that's still around. Look how dumb that is, man. Jokes aside, extremely good skill having that 45, even though it is for 2 seconds. If you're able to time that when you're in a multiple 1v2 or 1v3, it makes a massive difference to you guys. Now, evasive maneuvers is extremely strong. In terms of dodging backwards, I don't generally dodge backwards a lot. The main reason being, if someone's looking directly at you and all you do is move further back this way, sure, you will be able to avoid the attack, but it doesn't cause that person to have to change their aim in any way. Obviously dodging to the sides, left and right, they're going to have to change that. Now, versing melee, it may not make a difference, but versing things like Ice Gauntlets or Fire Staff in close range can cause that error by them in missing shots. Editing the video, I realized I left something out. The reason why we take this skill now is because you're probably not at the level to be able to get that 150 dex bonus to be able to get the reduced amount of stamina used when dodging. So this really helps in that earlier kind of engagements. Next one is Strong Conditioning. So this is by far one of the strongest passives you can get in this build. As you can see, it's 30% stamina regen when you're below 50%. So this is amazing for medium armor. I repeat, medium armor. Because you're going to be able to get 3 hops in and still have that 10 stamina left over. That is going to be where the stamina regen kicks in, and then as soon as you get over 40, you're going to be able to hop again. With light armor, sure, you can roll twice and you're going to have 20, you have to wait, and then if you roll again, you could potentially stuff it up and then you're exhausted. Now with this, you still get that 30% regen even if you are exhausted. If it's a life or death situation and you need to dodge an ability, you can go ahead and do that. And also guys, this build is going to back you up with that, because if you've already burnt through that much stamina, it tells me that you've already used your skills relatively earlier in the fight. So as it progresses longer, if you have to burn that, well, you're going to have one of these stuns here to be able to get you out of that tricky situation. So while they're down on the ground or while they're stunned, your stamina regen is going to come in back up to full, and then you're going to be able to proceed with the fight. So once we've got that, we're actually going to go over to here now and go for Refreshing Reach. So again, guys, another 15% spear cooldown reduction, and it is on heavy attacks. So as you guys can see in this clip as well, each target that I hit with my heavy attack reduces my skills by 15%. So multiple targets is a bonus. After that, we're going to go for Invigorating crits. If you've been playing New World for long enough, you understand that 20 stamina on a critical hit, especially if you're a dex user. And then once we've done that, we're going to be getting in Deadly Reach. So 3+ meters away. So 3 meters, I believe, is the max range for the light attack. So if you can hit them with potentially a sweep, dodge back once, and then get 2 attacks off of them, you're more than likely going to be getting that 10% crit chance. And then the last skill we're going to be taking, guys, is going to be Crippling Jabs. As you can see, this is great. So if you get 2 light attacks off, they're going to be slow for 30% for 3 seconds.
I can't feel my legs.
At that critical point in their HP where you know, it's going to be scary for them. So people are probably wondering, why haven't you taken any of the ultimates? Okay, well, for starters, this is not a bleed spear build. So all of these skills right here are completely useless to me. That doesn't make any difference to me unless I'm maybe in team fights, but I'm not going to bank on that. And again here, this is what I'm talking about. Last time it was the opening strikes where you deal 20% more damage to someone that is at full health. Well, guys, 25% damage while stamina is full, it's not going to come around very often in PvP. You know, especially if you're going to be hopping around and doing things like this to ensure that you're going to be getting the most amount of cooldown reduction for your skills. So then you can pull out your primary weapon once you've locked people down enough and you've created a certain amount of distance or a timing where you can then, you know, do an evade shot off if you're using bow, for instance. Again, 20% damage, but only in very small situations. It doesn't really add up. One-on-ones, this could be good where you can dodge and go into heavy attacks and things like that, and you can do that constantly if you can keep that range with the spear and be able to do that. But guys, 10% damage on those attacks, it really doesn't stack up. If I hit 1,000, I'm only hitting for an extra 100, whereas if I was to get rid of any of these passives or any of these skills that I have, just to gain that 10% damage for multiple heavy hits that I have to land, it's really not worth it. Also, some of these other skills, so as you can see, there are these skills here, but that is not the build that we're going for. Cyclone is really the only one that I think could potentially be viable with this build, but I would more say this would be directed towards people that are using spear as a primary. So obviously for me, bow being my primary, I like to have Javelin because it already creates that distance, because then I can work off that, and also then being able to lock people down as much as possible. Also, the animation for this skill can be quite annoying if you're versing multiple people. So you know me, I'm not an animation guy, I'm a very fast moving person, and that's how I like to do PvP. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it or you found it helpful. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe before closing down the video. And guys, check out my channel, there's a lot more advice on there, as well as things like PvP montage and other fun things. Also guys, if you think that I missed something or you have any other questions just to clarify some things, don't be afraid to hit me up in the comment section below. I love answering those questions. I love helping you guys out, so don't think that it's a burden or you're too afraid to do it because you think I'm going to give you a shitty response. Go ahead, do it, let's have a chat about it. But thanks legends, I appreciate it a lot, and I'll catch you on the next one.